The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
There you go.
Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Friday.
And today, we go live worldwide.
Well, hello, world. Welcome to our world. You're not going to believe what you hear.
No, you're not. But yes, starting today, we're in beta test mode. And I'm looking at the computer screen right now. We are broadcasting live on YouTube. So our YouTube channel subscribers can now watch us live, no matter where they are in the world, which is great. And I think that this is a wonderful new addition to Spindle City Straight Talk. And I think that now people will really know that Fall River is in trouble all across the country, all across the world, and they won't have to wait for that video to be available on YouTube. They can now watch us live. And they can also actually make comments live to us. And we can see them on our computer monitor here in the studio.
Welcome.
Welcome.
And, well, I don't even know where to begin. I mean, it's just...
you know, the city council felt that they were so assured of the budget that they canceled the debate on the budget for yesterday.
Well, actually, they put in way too much time for that paltry sum that they work for. And the fact is that they've forgotten that some of the people who they're imposing these fees and taxes on are getting about just a little bit more, or maybe that amount or a little less, for working full-time and trying to support a family and maybe holding 2 jobs. And that's the fundamental problem with this budget. Everybody's heard enough, and everybody's got their you know, all their excuses in line why this is a good budget. And it's, you know, our figures on, you know, the figures 9%, this percent, 10 million. But let's call a spade here. You know, if you have a budget and it's the most transparent, clear budget that was ever produced. There you go. Now I'm in the center. So the budget's still no good is if the end product of that budget is you spend all your money on buying a car.
We buy trash trucks.
And buying a fancy car, and you don't maintain your home. You let it fall into disrepair. And that's what this budget basically does. Let's look at this budget. It's been reduced. So all the bobbleheads on the city council, they're making all kinds of you know, assertions that this is a wonderful budget because it's a zero-based budget, which it isn't. But we're not going to go into that. Forget the numbers. Let's look at what this budget does. This budget includes a 30% increase to the mayor's staff. Yesterday, I had an insurance advisory committee meeting, and I walked into the mayor's office, into the foyer, and I was greeted by a brand new desk where there used to be a couch for people waiting to see the mayor. Because now we have 2 secretaries. He's got 2 of them. He's got the one in a regular position, which is the side where you make a right to go into the mayor's office, and now he's got another secretary. 30% increase in the mayor's budget. Of course, they tried to hide it by sliding 13% over, or 16%, because they juggled them, over to admin services, but they didn't hide it. We know it. 30% increase for people who are political hacks who are getting political jobs. And then we look at pay raises from $64,000 to $90,000. We see, you know, exorbitant pay raises. Supposedly the budget's been reduced $10 million. Not one police officer in one of the highest crime-ridden cities in the state. Not one firefighter. not one additional staff member to collect your bills when you go in and have to stand in an endless line that wraps around the second floor 3 times. The priority is to make the rich richer and the taxpayer take it in the tuchus. And that's the reality of what this budget is. And anybody supports this budget doesn't have their head on straight. And anybody that's thinking of running for office that thinks this budget is good is definitely not going to get my vote, because I don't care it's not the numbers, it's where the money's going. We said on our first show, oh so long ago, follow the money. Where's the money going? And just look, to rub our nose into the dirt, to throw a little bit more salt on the wound, the city has a new hire. And who is that hire? Leo Pelletier. Another guy that's been on the political dole his entire life. And kudos to Leo. Yeah, yeah, and so, I like Leo. He's a personable guy. But when he left, I got to give him credit. He did tell the truth. He said, "Look, I've been bounced out of the city council. I'm going to go look for a job, a political job, like they all do." And guess what? He got one. He got one. And this budget's okay. We have given half the staff is made up of people who are already on a pension, who are basically double dipping, or millennials who've never had a job in their life that he went to school with. And the staff has expanded. This is the largest mayoral staff in the history of the city of Fall River. When this city had nearly 100,000 people, 300 firefighters versus 185, 300 police officers versus 225. We had the mayor and his secretary. Now we've got a staff that looks like a small army. You need a scorecard to keep track of who's walking into City Hall, and they continue to dole out these jobs. Is this what I pay my taxes for? Absolutely not. I pay to have firefighters, police officers, and services provided by this city. I don't pay for the mayor to run an employment agency for every political hack and school chum he's ever had.
Chip, it's truly terrible. But, there's a couple of things we got to look at. We have 185 firefighters as opposed to 300. We have 225 police officers. And look at the services you're actually getting. If you're in a car accident with no injuries, file the report online. If you have a break-in into your house, file the report online. There's no policing done. Unless it's major crimes, there's no policing done. And you know what? Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I think it's a bad thing. I think we need to have police officers answer car accidents. I think we need to have police officers answer break-ins, because they may see something that I, as the member of the general public, don't see. They're trained to do that. It's the same thing with the fire department. 185 firefighters, and we got overtime all over the place.
Which, by the way, they still have a SAFER grant, so they're not actually even paying for the 185.
Exactly. And this is the problem we have. We don't get any services.
Yeah.
But for the lead-in, and I have to do this because, as you know, Chip, we over here at Spindle City Straight Talk with South Coast Media, we've been working diligently to bring quality productions and TV programming to our viewers. So we created a totally brand new game show. And our city council participated in the making of this show, because without them, it would not be happening. I was actually thinking of naming the boy Emperor the executive producer. So I want to bring this show to our people and let them see the great new show.
Preview of coming attractions.
Preview of coming attractions.
Screw you, taxpayer!
Boy, ain't that the truth, right? So, but here we are. And, and this is the thing, that, we're looking at this budget and people are talking about, and it's a diversionary tactic. They talk about the percentages, the money saved. Where's the money going? As we said, we've just defined where the money's going.
Right.
Show me, it's not there. And then we have the mayor making statements like, I don't care what the Labor Relations Commission says, they're not going to happen. I've made an executive decision. You have not made an executive decision. You've made a dictatorial mandate.
Right.
Because you haven't made a decision that's predicated. You said, I said it, and I don't care if it costs more, or if we find out that I get ruled against. It's going to happen because I said so. And that's not, you are the chief executive officer of the city, but you too, as all political officials in the state of Massachusetts.
Terrible.
We're elected to represent the people in the best interest of the people, not to make executive mandates. And this is the problem we have. And everybody forgets, as they did in the budget.
Right.
We're talking about people here. These people that are getting laid off and getting disenfranchised without due process, by the way, without due process, just unilaterally cut loose because the city said, we've declared an impasse. Well, after 3 meetings, it's not an impasse. I hate to tell you this. But this is the thing. The human toll is ignored. We bring in another political hack, give him a job in City Hall for more than probably a DCM employee, 1.5 employees. We give him another salary to add to his pension. It's just, it's appalling. And, it really, you wonder why people are totally frustrated with government on all levels, because this is what it is. It's nothing more than a bunch of greedy pigs sticking their head in this giant trough being fed by the taxpayer.
Surprise.
Well, this is a lead-in also because, it's interesting because I reached out to the Teamsters, Local 251, and I asked specific questions. I was supposed to get a phone call back from somebody by the name of Dave Robbins. I haven't heard back from them yet. But I asked the following questions. Why is the negotiating team still meeting with the mayor? There's an impasse that city declared, which means you can't discuss it because it's waiting for a decision from the Labor Relations Board. 2, why have they not filed a TRO against the city to stop the budget and to stop the activation or implementation of the contract?
Temporary restraining order. In case you don't know the acronym.
Right. And the biggest problem I have is the union, the membership, is feeling a little upset because they don't feel that their local is representing them. You already had a couple of senior guys who approached the mayor and said, what can we do to negotiate this for us without the union? Because they're not representing us. And, I think that, the Teamsters, Local 251, should have reached out to us to give us their side of the story. Because at this point, if this budget gets passed on Tuesday, they're going to be behind the 8 ball, regardless of what the Labor Relations Board does. And the city is going to be behind the 8 ball. And why would the city be behind the 8 ball? Well, because this public service announcement is going to come to you live from the mayor and from the Fall River City Council. There you go. There's the public service announcement, which I think is very appropriate.
And free of charge.
Free of charge.
Free of charge, by the way.
Right. There's no question about that. So what do we do? What do we do? And, you've already had people on Facebook who are screaming, ranting, and raving that, they got to pass this budget. Why? Because the mayor sent his minions. He sent his chief of staff, Sergeant Michael Hoare, the tax collector, and Faust Fiore, who is a elected official in Mattapoisett, but he said, I was given a job. He told me that yesterday. And I asked him, when are you going to establish residency? I was offered a job and I took it. Which means he's not going to establish residency in violation of city ordinance. Is that new to you? No, because nobody at Fall River follows.
He was offered a job that had conditions of employment, by the way.
Right.
Just so we can clarify that for him, because apparently he hasn't had a real job where he actually had to look at what the job qualifications and conditions of employment were.
Right.
Because I got offered a job, by a politician, which means we don't have to play by the rules. We just screw it. We establish a city residency requirement just so the people can feel like we're doing something, and then we never enforce it. Again, more government by bullshit, and that's what it is. It's ridiculous. And Again, we have a chief of staff who was down, who was at the, who's actually has a restriction on hours worked that will be enforced by the Fall River Retirement Board. I will guarantee that, because we take the fiduciary responsibility very, very, very seriously.
You mean you actually do your job?
Well, every year, the Retirement Board has to assess people and get documentation of how much money is earned by many retirees.
Right.
And those people forfeit some, and some of them forfeit their entire pension because they've made too much money, and the law is not going to give them a pension if they make this money that is statutorily stipulated.
Right.
You don't think that I've already had, I don't know how many calls from those people who have to give back some or all of their pension because of money earned and hours worked, and say, there's no way this guy can work 20 hours a week, because the chief of staff's job's a 70 or an 80 an hour or 80-hour a week job. You got to follow the mayor around like a puppy at night, to the council meetings, to parades, and everywhere he goes, you're his man. So you're not going to tell me, and that's why I'm asking for an opinion from PERAC, because I know they said, well, we get paid for $960 and the rest is all voluntary. No, that's not the way PERAC interprets it. So there will be an interpretation from PERAC about this stuff, because if you read the law, it is fairly clear. It says after 960 hours, your employment is terminated. Done. Beat it. You can't do that job anymore, because you can't say you were doing it for, you were volunteering, because they're not that dumb at PERAC. They're not going to believe that. But this is what we get here. We get all these abuses, but they're okay because they don't have to live by the same rules everybody else does. Every other retiree in the system has to live by that rule, the 960-hour rule and the income rule. And, I know that the county board and the state board may not be that, they may not care. But I'll tell you what, the director of the Fall River Retirement Board and the board members take the fiduciary responsibility of the system very seriously. And I'm not picking on anybody. I'm just making sure that the rules apply to everybody. Those rules that, when we send out a letter to take money back from somebody, I don't want any member to walk up to me and say, why didn't you do that to him? Because I will do what we have to do to enforce it. And to segue back into the union, I don't have any idea why the Teamsters, if they're meeting after an impasse, because that's technically illegal, and the members of that local can file a complaint against the union for failure in their duty to represent. There's been an impasse filed. There should be no bargaining until the Labor Relations Commission renders a verdict. But see, this is the problem with the whole system, whether it's Fall River, the state, or the federal government. That's why Donald Trump is where he is, and that's why people are outraged. People in the United States of America are tired of having politicians and politically connected people and the 1%ers be treated as a special class. They're a monarchy. We've said time and time again, we do not have a republic and we do not have a democracy. We have a constitutional monarchy because congressmen don't have to abide by the rules, they make their own. State reps don't have to abide by the rule. That's right, there you go. Screw the taxpayer. And this is the reason there's public outrage. And the fact in Fall River that somebody better pay attention to this budget, because I'll tell you what, when you start getting your water bills and your tax bills, people are going to get really upset. But the fact is, they should be really upset regardless by looking at that budget. This is the 1% politically connected budget. When you look at this budget and you look, there's been reductions in every department except the mayor's staff and budget. All that money has gone to,
And he placated the city council. He said, okay, I won't take $7,000 for travel. I'll take $2,500, but you're not going to get any.
yeah, well,
And no, wait, it gets better. It gets better.
oh, yeah.
Because this is how this, he says that going to a 1/12 budget would be financially irresponsible for the city. And if the city council does that, this is financially, you should not run a city this way. You should not run your budgets this way. Well, you know what, Mr. Mayor? If you told the truth, you wouldn't have a problem.
well, you know,
If you put the budget out there so people could just say, page 1, water department, bop, 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 revenue, expenses, costs. No, you got to jump all over these budget pages all over the place to find them, to put them together. And this is how you lie. And I'm not going to say it's a misrepresentation. This is how you lie. And that's what you're doing. You're lying. And for you to go on the air, and for you to have your minions go on the air, to try to sell this budget, and to say that you can't enter into contracts, teachers won't have jobs, police and fire won't want to work, there's not going to be any money for them, that is a threat. That is legislation by extortion. And you are the master of legislation by extortion.
and it is also a pile of, a massive pile of equine excrement. Because the question is, why can't you run a 112 budget if the budget was correct?
Exactly.
When I went before the council, I said it's got to be a document predicated. You know, we all have a budget, and my budget is a monthly budget because that's when the bills come due. You get your gas bill, you get your electric light bill monthly. Now, I don't just say, well, you know, it's not irresponsible for me to look at a budget and say, well, I look at last year's gas bills, and even if you're not on the payment plan, you look at last year's gas bills, you look at how much you paid, you look at it over a couple of years, you say, okay, and then you budget, you know, you put in a little extra, and you budget. You do the thing prudently, but then you pay your bills by the month. And if your budget is actuarially accurate, as the healthcare has been for so many years that we run under budget all the time.
Next year you might not.
That's right. Those actuarials are very good. Why can't our budget people be that accurate? And if they were that accurate, and if that document was truly fiduciarily responsible, you could run a 112 budget without a problem. And all the rest of the stuff is crap. Because, see, you know what the city does? The city, the actuarials that they hire to say, how much should we raise the premium next year for health care, has told the city that they should go up 9%. So all the people who have health care in the city, their premium is going to go up 9%. We'll probably run on the budget, and then we can do something with the money at some point in time, maybe get a holiday later on after a couple of years. The city only budgeted 6%. And then at yesterday's meeting, the question was asked. And the answer was, oh, well, we always budget less than we actually have to. Well, guess what? And then Kathy Ann Viveris answered my question by saying, and what happens if you're off? Oh, don't worry, we'll get the money from somewhere else. Wrong. Sorry. The fact is, you got collective bargaining agreements that mandate that you have enough money to maintain your 75-25 split. Chapter 32B of the Massachusetts General Laws also says very clearly that the treasurer shall, not if you want to, shall keep sufficient funds expressly for health care and all other associated bills like incurred but not reported. They also eliminated, or they actually after the questioning, they didn't know. This is our financial team. You know, CJ, because you're in the healthcare.
Yep.
You know that they normally have an escrow account for runovers.
Correct.
Incurred but not reported. At one time, Blue Cross used to require the average of 3 months bills. Years ago, when I was the chairman of the Healthcare Advisory Board for 24 years, city negotiated it down to 2 years. Then yesterday, when I questioned them on it, because I had asked the question in a previous meeting and never got an answer, and I said, how much do we have in escrow? Nothing. Nothing. No. Well, when did this happen? I don't know. But we don't have any more. Well, that's the reason we couldn't go to a premium plan, because we didn't have enough money to pay the runoff bills. But where did that money go? Where did that escrow go? And then the next thing they said was, oh, but we've got a special plan that we pay Blue Cross by the month in kind of like an escrow. Really? Is that reflected in the budget anywhere? No.
So it
No.
doesn't exist.
So you're going to tell me that this is a transparent, accurate budget. And I told them yesterday, I'm going to write a letter to the DOR based on my position as the Public Employee Committee representative for all the retirees in the city, and ask them if having something like this in the budget is fiduciarily responsible, and whether this tax rate should be certified. And that letter will be written this weekend and sent out next week, because this is, you know, when you sit in a room with these people and question them, how many times have you all seen at a city council meeting, they get to a point where, with somebody who's done a little research and knows a little bit about the subject, they get to a point where they can't answer the question, and it's always, we don't have those figures. We'll have to get back to you. And then the figures change 16 times. Listen, we've said it time and time again. We've seen this city. We've seen every year we have deficits, and then they're unexplained, or they're things that we should have looked for. We see this trash contract with its exorbitant early termination fees, but everybody's going to go, yes. So, you know something? The people of Fall River should be upset. We say stay angry. Well, get even angrier. That's my new one.
And Chip, the problem is that you have people who go out there, you know, and I don't want to call them up by name, but I really want to so bad. You know who you are, because we've gotten into some arguments over it already. You support this because we're going to privatize trash. One little issue is not the entire budget. You have to look at the big picture. Okay, and even the privatization contract actually results in a $900,000 a year increase over the term of the contract. So how is that saving any money? Get your heads out of your asses, people. Understand, you're being lied to. The sixth floor does not say anything honest. And you know what? He's politicizing things as well. He's going to have a remembrance ceremony or whatever over the weekend for the shooting in Orlando. The shooting in Orlando has nothing to do with Fall River. Well, we don't have to, you know, I understand that people feel bad about it and everything else, but you know what? We've had numerous people who have, you know, died in Fall River. We had people dying of heroin overdoses every day. Why are you worried? Okay? It's craziness. Stop using diversionary tactics. Focus on the truth.
Yeah, but let's look at you know, if you don't learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it. So let's look at this. Okay, there are people who are saying they want to privatize trash. It should be privatized, and they may be right. But there's also due process. But what's more important is, let's look at this thing. Who's privatizing? Fall River. We're the only place in the state that pays for, we don't get paid for our recycles. We pay to get rid of them. We pay more for everything than if everybody else in the state is saving money, we lose money.
Yeah, I
so
understand
we
that.
will be, you know, granted, you're going to point to all these cities that privatized and saved money. But you know something? In Fall River, invariably, every time we do something that everybody else does, we manage to screw it up because it costs us money. So you know something? Just if you privatize correctly, it may be right. But let's face it, we haven't done anything right. The government in the city hasn't done anything right in a very long time. So stay angrier and welcome, world.
See you next week on Spindle City Straight Talk. Thank you, world.